Welcome back. Let's talk about the coalition. Well, they have now been enmeshed in yet another litigation. But let's bring in our guest who is going to espouse this conversation even further. Salihu Lukman is a former APC National Vice Chairman Northwest and a member of the ADC coalition. Mr. Lukman, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
I think let's start off from what the 2023 presidential candidate of the AAC talked about. I mean, Omo Eleshore. He said when we're asking about the fact that if he was to have a conversation with the coalition, at least to have a sit down and talk about what are the possibilities in the nearest future, immediate will be 2027. What will it be? His response was very clear and straight. And he said, look, he can hardly even sit down with those of you in the coalition. And he said, he mentioned a lot of things about you that I may not be able to repeat, but I guess you heard them as to the effect of these are not the people he wants to deal with. And that seemed to be the narrative of a couple of other people when they pick out elements in the collective to say, are these the kind of people Nigerians want to look at as an alternative? How do you respond to all of this integrity profiling of the coalition?
Well, I think it's an issue that we've been responding to. One straight answer is that the reality is that angels are not going to descend from heaven to fix the problem of this country. Nigerians have to be the ones to fix it. And all of us, we have our strength, we have our weaknesses. One of the things we have tried to do in the coalition, in negotiating the coalition over the last 1.5 years or more, is to be quite open and engage leaders based on a strategy to recognize that we all made our mistakes and we all contributed in one way or the other to the problem of the country today. And therefore, having recognized that, we are setting ourselves up in a way that will overcome some of the mistakes that has been made in the past. And which is why, you see, most people focus more in terms of election. And the reality is that election is just the easiest component of the democracy. The most important component is the structure which is put in place that will hold elected representatives accountable. So yes, we have succeeded so far in reaching agreement that all opposition leaders will be in one place in the ADC as members of the coalition. But this is the beginning of the work, which is about building a party that will substantially depart from the past and ensure that not just when we win election, even before we win election, we are able to regulate ourselves, we are able to put rules in place which will be respected by all. This is the negotiation currently going on.
So, Mr. Lukman, if you acknowledge that angels will not descend from heaven to form the coalition, do you concede that it is sinners who make up this coalition currently, and as many have said, those who have failed Nigerians in the past?
Well, the question of failing Nigerians in the past is a subjective response. I mean, yes, people have made their mistakes, no doubt about it, but like I said, our major preoccupation now is what do we do moving forward, which is why when people begin to engage us based on, for instance, who is going to emerge as the presidential candidate. I mean, look, the whole business of forming the ADC is just starting now. Yes, there is an entity recognized by the law as a political party, but the structures are yet to be put in place. This is the negotiation going on now to put the structures in place. And the other issue related to that is the whole agenda with which we are going to confront Nigerians and seek to get their mandate, to elect us in 2027. And for many of us, this is where we will really indicate whether we are going to depart from the past or not. If it is all about painting the APC and President Aswaju bad without substantially coming up to present practical proposals that will move this country forward, I think we will be setting ourselves to repeat all mistakes and disappoint Nigerians. So related to the whole issue of angels are not going to descend from heaven is the acknowledgement that we must endure, we must try to do the hard work of really negotiating among ourselves, which is why, for instance, when we say everybody should suspend the declaration of ambition, we are not saying people should suspend the declaration of ambition simply because we want them to swallow what they want to do. No, we are insisting that the first thing will be to now put rules in place that when you declare and promise Nigerians, you can be able to deliver what you promise. Look, we are coming from a recent past.
Well, Mr.
I was
Lukman,
part of APC from formation.
it's inevitable that... Okay, you can land on that point.
Yeah, I was part of APC from the beginning. We promised all manner of things, and we end up becoming a disappointment. We don't want to repeat those kind of experiences. We don't want Nigerians to have another situation whereby governments are changed and then things get worse. This is the whole, which is why I said, yes, we have reached agreement to form the coalition with everybody inside the coalition as part of the opposition, but this is when the work begins.
So it's inevitable that we're going to discuss who gets what, because already members of the coalition are declaring their ambitions contrary to, the limitations put by the leaders of the coalition on that particular action. But let's ask you, because the last time you were here, it was unclear whether you had resigned your membership of the All Progressives Congress. You were former National Vice Chairman Southwest of the ruling party. So have you turned in your resignation of the APC and have formally joined the ADC?
No, that is very clear. I've resigned my membership of APC. I'm a member of ADC now. So I think that should answer your question.
Okay, so let's go to the coalition and declaration of interest now. We've had former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, declaring. We've had, of course, Mr. Peter Obi declaring, although he has not formally resigned his membership of the Labour Party. But, of course, there's also the advancement of northern interests amid this coalition subject matter. We've had other members talking about the need to advance a northern candidate, to challenge the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, as a strategy similar to what the current president himself had pursued in the past. Is that the position of the leading figures of this coalition? Because that has also been, what was put forward by the presidential candidate of the ADC in 2023, which he said he kicked against when it was presented to him. So is that the position of the coalition, to put forward a northern candidate to challenge the APC?
Well, first, let me be very, very clear from the onset. There is no discussion about the question of presidential candidate in the coalition up to this moment. And our position is basically whoever, and that is the first test of whether we will be different from the existing parties or not. Whoever will be the candidate of the ADC must win the primary. Is the first test of whether those aspiring are in the first place Democrats or not. So, and this is the issue we are engaging all of them. And the other test which we are putting to all of them is that their ambition must go beyond their personal expectation. It has to factor the reality facing the country. They have to come ready to be able to make the needed sacrifice to move this country forward. as it is, look, we have to be very, very honest. You know, where the country is, it's not simply about presenting candidates. You know, and honestly, I will be I've been saying it, which is, I am not engaged in a popularity contest among leaders, you know. I always put forward to them that, look, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a question of trusting leaders. You know, it's not leaders must earn their trust. So the best way leaders can earn trust is to be able to show humility, that they are ready to subordinate themselves to the wishes of members of the party. Like I was saying just a while ago, coming from APC, having a situation where we trusted leaders and they end up becoming emperors today, look at what is happening in APC. Everywhere you hear on your mandate, on your mandate, on your mandate. I'm not going to stand on anybody's mandate. I want the person to always subordinate himself to members of the party, always seeking to get clearance in terms of whether they are doing the right thing or not. That's the kind of template that we are looking for. And I think as Nigerians, we must resist the temptation of setting up leaders in a way that they become very arrogant, believing that it is either them or nothing, you know. And that is the kind of negotiation that is right now going on within the coalition. And it's a very difficult negotiation, I must confess, you know, but we are very confident that in the end, we will succeed in presenting a common candidate, because the argument we have put across, and it's not any, even coming from 2023, that is the reality. Once the opposition leaders are divided, if by 2027, out of the opposition we present more than one candidate, it's as much as granting victory to APC and President Asuwaju. So as much as possible, we must keep the opposition together. So, and in keeping the opposition together, it's not about asking anybody to step down. It's not about saying this is the preference of the coalition. It's about now putting the principle that as Democrats, everybody must seek to win the support of majority.
Mr. Lukman,
you know, and once that
quickly
is achieved, every other person must support who wins. So that's the principle.
You've acknowledged, Mr. Lukman, that it's going to be tough, and I'm glad you acknowledged that, because you can't have all of these major political players who have been in politics for decades, from number 2 citizen to number 3 citizen, number 4 citizen, former governors, ministers, like, it's really heavy. And I imagine kind of conversations that will go on. But that's not to say we've not seen some proposals being put out. And as been said, some of the major contenders have spoken to their interests to run already in spite of the negotiations that is going on. But Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo yesterday spoke to why he thinks, and I imagine he's speaking for a lot of people in the coalition, a northern candidate would be better to have to vie for the #1 seat against President Bola Tinubu, as opposed to a candidate, a presidential candidate from the south. I must say that hurt a lot of obedience, because for them, it has to be Peter Obi and someone from the south. So we already have an inkling as to what the thinking is, really, because it's, at the end of the day, it's about the numbers, right? You want to put out someone who will get the numbers. The north has a lot of numbers. Yes, the south has as well. But you want someone who can capture majority of the north. So listen to Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo. A lot of people will say, well, it looks like we know where the coalition is headed to. So yeah, maybe working towards the answer. So what do you say about that proposal for a northern candidate? Maybe that will get you the numbers you want.
I mean, the reality that Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo spoke his personal opinion. I don't share his opinion. And honestly speaking, I think what Nigeria needs is to strengthen the principle of democracy. I mean, look. We went through that route before under the APC, you know, although not argued in the way it is being argued now, but President Buhari had majority of his support from the north. And yet we have arguably, we have the kind of disappointment we had. Today is debatable whether the north is better off or not. So my personal position, and with due respect to everybody from the North who is aspiring to be president, my personal position is that, look, let the person justify that he is the best candidate. And so also, I have argued this before, even as recent as yesterday, that look, in the case of the obedient, they must also avoid the mistake of 2023. They were all over this place, making all manner of argument. But one of the limitations of the obedient is that when it gets to the crunch, at the decisive moment, they become absent, which was why Peter Obi suffered the kind of problem he had. I mean, as presidential candidate, there were part of the limitation he had was that in many of the places he didn't have polling agents. So as APC, we are going to act to now strengthen each and every one of them, whoever emerge. And we are appealing to the obedient to really understand that the ADC and the coalition is the home for them, and they should come and let's build ourselves together. If Peter Obi tomorrow emerge as the presidential candidate, we will support him and strengthen him to overcome the shortcoming of the past. So also any other person, if it is Atiku Abubakar that emerged, for instance, we will support him and strengthen him in such a way that he doesn't repeat the mistake of former President Buhari, for instance, that although he is from the north, ended up almost sacrificing the north. So I think these are issues which, as citizens, as Nigerians, we must be very honest and frank in engaging them if we are going to move this country forward. This is the kind of debate we want to have in ADC.
Mr. Lukman, as we begin to wind down, I'm happy you landed where you did. So, a straight question. You said it in passing. So let me ask you directly. If Mr. Peter Gregory Obi emerges as a candidate of the ADC in your primaries, whenever that happens, would you be supporting him?
I've said that. I don't think I said that in parables. I said that very clearly. We will support him. You know, we will strengthen him. We will work for him and ensure that he is able to defeat President Asuwaju and the APC. So I think it's a straightforward answer.
All right, just a last one.
The challenge is that he needs to win the primary.
Okay, but everybody will slug it out of the primary, apparently. But given what has played out, wouldn't it be fair to allow perhaps the sentiment of equity to play out in that primary, if you know what I mean?
Well, look. This is not a new thing. We went through it in APC. Some of us came out clearly and argued against the establishment under former President Buhari when they wanted APC to produce a candidate from the north. The debate within the ADC and within the coalition will factor all of this and ensure that factor of equity is properly taken care of and addressed in a way that Nigerians will see that there is a new party which respects the interests of everybody and is going to accommodate everyone.
Well, Mr. Salihu Lukman, on a final note, so what's in it for you at the end of the day? Would you be running for governor under the ADC, the National Assembly, or you'll be a party man? So is that the goal? Be a party man or party executive, or run for elective office?
Look, I think this is the easiest question I can answer. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not interested in anything. My basic interest is for our leaders to do the right thing. I don't care. Once leaders are not doing the right thing, I will step forward and I will tell them, and I am ready to bear the consequences. I've been bearing the consequences. I'm not popular among political leaders, but the good thing is that many of them respect me.
Well, you've spoken well as a party man, Mr. Salihu Lukman, former vice chairman of the APC Northwest, now a member of the ADC. That's the coalition. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will zoom to the southeastern part of the country, Enugu State to be precise, where the government the other day launched the Enugu Air. We'll talk about some of this infrastructure as well as the challenges of governance in that state in just a moment. Join us again.